Hello and welcome back to Ray's Crafty Creations. As you know, we were doing the skin tone a little earlier, and this is what it looks like when it's all nice and dry. So you can see how much it's blended out, and we've got no obvious dark areas as such. Well, we're going to make this little lady blonde today, and I'm going to be using a mix of pens for this. So I've got two pro markers, which are Buttercup and Mustard, and then I am using, let me read the number off for this one, Raw Sienna, which is a golden brown number 7 from the Illustrators, and Goldenrod, which is the golden brown number 4. Okay, now the palest of my 4 colours is this one, which is the Buttercup, and I'm going to use this to put a complete layer over my hair to start with, just so that I've got a real sort of gentle tone to start work with, because as you noticed before when I did the skin, I needed to cover most of the hair. But what you will notice is, rather than working in circles, I tend to work in lines now, because just in case I get directional marks from what I'm working in, I want to make sure that I'm going backwards and I'm sort of keeping in the lines a bit with the way that the shading is going, because it's a good habit to get into, because when I start adding the other colours, I'm going to need to have them all going in the same directions as I'm working now. And that's, so I'm just putting these colours down. Most images are quite helpful, and they will have shadow lines for you, so they'll have darkened areas so you can see where it is you're going to be putting your darker colours. Some don't, so you have to think about what areas would be in shade and what wouldn't. So when you're looking at your image and you've just started colouring, things that would be underneath the girl's chin would be darker, and they're indicated on this picture quite nicely, but it's just so that you would know. Anything that's next to her face would be darker, because it's going to have a line of shadow around it, so it's just going to be that little bit darker. Okay. The bit here underneath the hair as it folds over would naturally be darker. As you can see, I'm working in lines. You can see that those flick motions are starting to show on the longer areas, which is fine. Now, if you find that you, like me, you flick better in one direction, that's fine. Just move your bit of paper around so that it works how you want it to. Right, so that's my base colour laid down quite nicely. I'm going to go in with my next one, which is going to be the Mustard, which is my next one to be starting to put dark shadow and light in. So I'm going to go where I know that I'm going to have some shadow. So I'm going in here, and as you can see, I'm working in flicks so that there are no obvious ends to what I'm doing. It's just sort of will blend out quite nicely. So here we go. This is going to be darker because it's under her chin. Okay, here will be a lot darker because it's right at the back. I've got the bits here on her plait on the edges that will be darker as it passes in to and out from behind the plait. So I'm just going to start putting those in so I can see where my shadows are going to be. Now, it looks very rough at this point, but it's just you marking it up so you've got an idea of where all your shadows are. Okay, because as you go in, you're going to go in with darker colours to create more of your shadow, to give you more light and tone as you go along. Okay, so that's giving me my first lot of shadow. This is going to be my next lot, and I'm going to go with my broad nib on this one because it's quite a easier way of doing for what I want to do, because I want to lay quite a bit of shadow down quite quickly. So I'm just going to put it in where I want it, and I'm just flicking it in to those areas and making sure that I am leaving some of that really pale colour right at the beginning, because I do want that to stay. Okay, I'm going to put some of this down here. I'm going to go here. So you can see it's gradually starting to fill in. Okay. Now when I go in with my darkest, which in this case is the Raw Sienna, I'm going to be very careful because I really don't want a lot of this in. I don't want to be spending out. So I'm literally going to be putting little tiny flicks in right on the edges of what is where my shadow is. Can you see it's tiny little bits coming in? I'm just starting to put in the colour where it's going to be, the depth of the shadow is going to be. Okay. Okay. So now it's starting to look a little bit patchy. You're thinking, oh no, this isn't going to work. But now I'm going to go back. Now I'm going to miss out my golden brown from the illustrator. So I'm going to go straight back in with my yellow from the first one, the mustard. Because what I want to do is gradually sort of bring out that brown and just tone it down a bit. So I'm going to be just bringing it off and bringing it in to do this nice sort of gentle toning here. Okay. If it's not moving how you want it to, and you think, actually, no, this is not going to do, try moving it with this with very small circles, but don't do it everywhere. Just do it on those little bits that aren't moving how you want them to. So if you've got a bit that's hanging around that's very dark and it's not really flicking out and it's not moving with the how you want it to, just do a little bit more in that area, and that, but it will soon settle. As you can see, it's already starting to blend out. Okay. Right, now I'm going to go back over with my lightest again, and I'm going to go over it all. So I'm going to be doing quite a lot of this one again because I want to have it all to blend off. So as you see, I'm sort of starting to get it all moving in the same way that we did when we did her face, in that we're just using, but I'm definitely not doing circles now. I'm doing more directional. I'm just quite quick at it because I've been doing it for quite a while now. But now I've had alcohol markers for the last 10-12 years now, and these are still some of my originals. The one I'm using at the moment is one of the originals that I first bought. So they do, if you look after them, they will last a long time. One thing I will say is they must have their lid clicked back on. If you don't click their lid in place, you are going to be throwing your pen away, because they do, the colour evaporates quite quickly. So you'll end up with a dead pen. So it's quite definite something you need to be sort of looking after and taking your time on. Okay, we're getting there. I'm just going to go back in with my darker yellow again and just going to put some more lines through, just to give me more hair, so it gives me that feeling that it's definitely hair flowing. Just put a little bit more in, dragging it from the base, always going from that darkest point out, so that I'm really sort of starting to get that sense of a line coming through. Now there are areas where I've gone out of my colour in a minute, and I'm going to show you how I push that back to change it when I've made a mistake and I've gone out of my line, because you will, I do, everybody does, and that's where your blender pen becomes your best friend. Now here I've come quite way out of my lines here, so I'm just going to put in the ink next to where I've coloured, not on top of it. I'm going next to it, and I'm just colouring back to where I want that colour to go. It sort of pushes it in, so you end up with it going quite nicely where you don't, it moves it quite well. So if you're not sure and you think, I've really gone over the edge there, you can just push it back quite well with your blender pen. Okay, because all your blender pen is the alcohol without any pigment in it, so it's just a clear ink. Right, how are we doing? Do I want a little bit of the goldenrod, I think, but I'm going to use the the bullet nib this time, the small nib, not the blending nib. So I just want to put a few more strokes of hair colour coming in, just to give me that sense of that it's hair more than not. That's looking better. Okay, so that's how I would work on the hair, and then I leave it to dry, and if I'm not happy I will go back over it. So I hope that helps. You can add as many colours in as you would like, so if you want to add more colour in so you get a greater tonal range in your hair, you can do, and you can do it with just 3 pens, so it's very much your own decision. One thing before I just quickly finish is I'm going to show you how I did the eye. Now when you do the eye, you need to be quite careful because it's showing that you've got this nice bit here that's the shiny bit of the eye on the iris. So I've just literally dropped colour on either side of it to give her a nice bright blue eye. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that. Please join me on the next one, and we'll be looking at the flowers. Thank you.